I'm Carrie, and I want to introduce you to my new friend Delilah and how she came into being. If you've been following my channel for a few months, you probably already know I'm recreating an art print by Ruth Marten from her Fountains and Alligators series, where she took actual early 19th century fashion plates and added, well, fountains and alligators. To recap, I thought her versions were the actual historical ones when I was in a cheesecake-induced haze over the holidays, and once I found out they were a modern artist's work, I decided to recreate this one. I bought the pink fabric for the dress online about 5 minutes later, still in a haze, and have videos on the making of the dress, chemisette, hat, and even the reticule. Not in the art print, and silly beaded tassels. Then I thought, oh shist, now I have to make the alligator. But how? If anyone tries to tell you that sewing doesn't take much thinking, or tries to devalue your sewing work, send them to me or make them watch this video, because I spent weeks just thinking about how in the world I was going to do this. I eventually brought my model alligator home from my job, the university where I teach geology, and decided to attempt something like a life-size model of my model. Also, I'm dedicating this video to my former student Travis Durham, who died last year early on in the pandemic. He did some geoscience education research with me where he designed a lab on archosaur morphology. Archosaurs being a group of diapsids, including crocodilians like alligators, as well as dinosaurs, including birds. To make the lab work, we got models of a velociraptor, a chicken, and this alligator. Maybe I'll make a velociraptor friend next year. Anyway, thank you, Travis, and I'm so proud of you for following your dreams to become a paleontologist. This one's for you. Before I go any further, I should tell you that the subtitle of this video could be How to Make Sewing an Alligator More Difficult. And if you ever do this, why would you ever do this? Please learn from my mistakes. For example, I should have put the model on one of our old school projectors and traced a large outline on the wall, but no. Instead, I took my tape measure and draped it around myself to get an idea of how long the alligator should be in proportion to the one in the art print, and estimated it to be about 94 inches. Then I measured the length of the model, divided 94 by that number, and got about 5. So everything about the model needed to be about 5 times bigger in my actual alligator. Then I set to measuring all sorts of things on the model, like the head length, the tip of the nose to the eyes, the waist measurement, and the length of the tail. I even measured bicep and calf diameters and length of the toes. I think I was procrastinating before actually drawing out my pattern, which I finally did on wrapping paper because it is long enough. I made a dorsal and ventral pattern piece with the head attached, plus one piece for the forelimbs and one for the back legs. I made separate pattern pieces for the back feet so they would look more like they actually had ankles. And yes, I made a mock-up, as one does when making an alligator, I guess. The cats just helped so much as I awkwardly cut out the muslin on my sewing room floor. All 4 cats participated. They enjoy visiting me when I'm sewing at my table, so when I got down on their level, I guess they could not resist. I learned some new things about alligators while researching to make my own. Did you know that alligators only live, at least naturally, in the southeastern US and China? I based all my design elements on the American alligator, which can look like a cute chunkster like my cats, just with scales instead of fur. Anyway, back to sewing, if my cats will let me. I quickly sewed the muslin together with a long stitch length, so I could easily rip it out if I needed to, and it really helped me visualize what changes to make, which weren't actually very many. I rounded the elbows and knees a bit, made the belly a little rounder, and cut off the head. At this point, I decided I needed a separate head that I could just cover with fabric because I could not fathom how to make a plush version. My husband kindly volunteered to carve an alligator head for me out of foam board insulation based on my sketches and by looking at alligators on the internet. Thanks, sweetie! I knew I wanted to put scutes on the back of the alligator, so I sliced up the dorsal pattern piece so that I could just sew in the scutes along those new seam lines. Then it was time to cut the pattern pieces out of my fashion fabric, or alligator skin. I first considered cannibalizing my first ever Regency gown, which I never wear, but alligators are not green. They are certainly portrayed as green in animated movies, but I suspect, like Lego Batman,
I only work in black, and sometimes very, very dark gray.
Plus, the alligator in the art print is gray. I had bought 10 yards of this blue, black, gray, and white cotton twill for a Victorian walking suit as part of my pandemic shopping therapy, and decided that would do. It was only $5.99 a yard at fabricmartfabrics.com at the time I bought it, and I may even still have enough left for a walking suit if I use an accent fabric with it, because I only used 3.5 yards for the alligator. It is a heavy fabric, almost like denim, which is suitable for sturdy alligator skin, but at times I felt like I was making an alligator jean jacket. I started with the legs because they are smaller and I thought they would be less complicated. Ha! The front legs are narrow and a bit annoying to turn right side out, but the back legs are bigger. However, I wanted a 3D effect with the back legs. The back feet are separate pieces sewn at the ankles. And like many reptiles, alligator limbs go out, kind of horizontal to the body, and then angle downwards, unlike mammals, which are more likely to go straight down. The alligator in the art print seems to be just skin except for the head, but I wanted my alligator to be a friend as well as an accessory, so I made her legs a bit more realistic. After the body pieces were cut out, I drew some scute templates based on my plastic model and pictures of alligators. I was overwhelmed by the actual number of scutes on actual alligators, but I kept telling myself I was not trying to make an actual alligator, I was only trying to evoke one. I sewed on the scutes, clipped them, turned them right side out, and ironed them. To sew them in the body, I sandwiched them between the dorsal body pieces with about 1,000 clips, since pins were useless on the thick fabric. I laid out the body with the foam head on the floor and thought, it's too plain, needs more scutes. I thought I could solve the problem by quilting the alligator body to simulate scales. I had never quilted by machine before, only by hand, but I got out my machine's walking foot, ripped apart the muslin to use as the underlayer, and cut out pieces of batting using my pattern. I really should have done this before sewing on the scutes, but live and learn. It was painful trying to maneuver between them. So awkward, I deleted the video. I used friction markers to mark where the quilting line should go, and when I ironed them later, they showed up as white ashy lines. Once again, I should have tested first. The quilting lines don't really show up as well as I had hoped, and I knew I'd probably end up putting more scutes on the back. But I was impatient to see what the body would look like as a whole, so I sewed the dorsal and ventral pieces together. Sewing the legs on was like setting in sleeves, and I am happy to say that I patterned the pieces correctly, and the legs actually fit in the leg size. Did I just make up another term? I eventually had to tack the thighs to the body to prevent them from flailing backwards in an unnatural and quite disturbing manner, but otherwise I am delighted with the shape of the legs, feet, and the toes. The alligator is so long, I got a workout trying to turn her right side out. And as you can see, the cats had to get involved because I did this on the floor. My two curious calicos, Emma, who is really a tortie, and Susan. I used the stuffing from an old pillow to see what the tail looked like plumped up. Again, the length of the body made this a bit arduous, but I was delighted with the shape of the tail. Then it was time for more scutes, which I awkwardly tacked on with my handmade curved needle while listening to Lady Rebecca Fashions and costuming drama on YouTube. I used as few stitches as possible, and it still took what felt like forever, but when I finished, her back looked more like an alligator and less like a gray blob. My friend Erin came over for a sewing day. She is in my pandemic bubble. And I worked on patterning the neck piece and scutes for the neck. Yes, more scutes. While we were gabbing away, my wonderful husband made wooden alligator eyes that he painted without even asking me, and I love them. Although when my son saw them, he asked why there were 2 eyes of Sauron on the kitchen table. My husband did some magic and inserted the new eyeballs into the foam head. Once the neck was scuted and attached, I draped and drew muslin pattern pieces for each cheek, the top of the head, the skin over the eye ridges, the eyelids, and the chin. I cut these pieces out of the skin fabric and set to gluing them on the head using Mod Podge, which was a messy business. And the glue did discolor the fabric by darkening it where there was a lot of it, but I knew this going in because I actually tested it beforehand. Yay! And tried to use the dark areas to emphasize facial features. It worked sometimes. Her face still seemed too plain though. I originally thought I might sew the body to the head, and then I thought maybe I could actually make the neck a sort of purse in which I could store my reticule. But I was running out of time, so I just stuck pins in to secure it. Yup. Pins, which go right in the foam and do not want to come back out without a struggle. Now to the teeth. Alligators have a bit of an overbite, so I only had to worry about the upper teeth with the mouth closed. While I patterned and glued the face, Glenn, my husband, played with polymer clay and wire to construct teeth that we could later paint. The first set did not turn out well, possibly because the toaster oven got too hot or we cooked them too long. Anyway, they look like the rotting teeth of an alligator who eats way too much candy and has poor hygiene. By the way, I have a toaster oven just for polymer clay because I used to be obsessed with it and it makes the oven not food safe. We also bake it in the garage or outside where there is plenty of airflow. The second run worked better and Glenn spray painted them pearly white. Instead of wire, he used toothpicks. To insert them, I pushed an awl up into the upper lip where I wanted the tooth to go, then pushed in the toothpick. But there were some awkward gaps, so Glenn did some dental work while I worked on more features for the alligator's face. Most alligators have ridges behind the eyes going back towards the neck, along with what almost look like chubby cheeks. And these did not come out as much as I had hoped in the translation of my sketch to the foam head covered in fabric. So I made little pillows simulating these features and pinned them on. By this point, I was feeling tired and just wanted to be done, so I don't even care if they look weird. You try making an alligator. By looking at her, the texture of the fabric is only visible close up and in the right light. So I took out some tulip fabric markers, which I occasionally mixed up with my dry erase markers, oops, and drew scales on her based on the patterns in my model. This also took a geologic age, and I grew very tired of drawing trapezoids and circular shapes. I colored in the nails because I was already catching the teeth on things when I hugged her, and I did not need any more sharp things. Since I couldn't throw her in the washing machine, I rubbed down where I drew to try to get off any excess so it would not come off on my clothing when I hugged her. Also for this reason, I did not draw much on the underside except for the head and neck, which I detailed before I thought of this potential problem. And now I have an alligator friend. Her name is Delilah. We enjoy laying out in the sun, as ectotherms are wont to do before the heat of summer is upon us. She does not enjoy eating violets, but I do. We watched the new Godzilla vs. Kong movie together, and of course we rooted for our giant reptilian friend. She has learned some habits from the cats, like reaching up to get my attention and resting on my lap, so thank goodness I keep her nails clipped. She enjoys cosplaying as a butterfly or a cute dragon. And when she wants to go on costuming adventures with me as an accessory, I just unpin her chin and remove most of her stuffing so she is a bit more pliable and can fit around me as a shawl. And I love her. We are going to a photo shoot this weekend, and I'll be posting pictures on Instagram when the photos are ready. Thank you for joining me on this costuming and alligator making journey. Now that it is done, I am glad I did it. And I have a new reptilian friend and accessory. Thank goodness my husband just made me a large costuming closet so I have some place to hide her from the cats. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more costuming adventures, video essays on literature and history, or you just enjoy the general cat craziness. And please do comment below what you think of this silly alligator, how you would make the process easier, and any sewing, costuming, or history-related project you are working on right now. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!